And we have Dean and Mildred Bennett Elementary School, and this is Mrs. Bennett, right? Would you stand and tell us just a little bit about your husband? And yourself as...
Well, my husband was principal here at, it was West Florida.
Okay.
When we came, and I think it changed name only one time. It was Dale Works now, I believe. And the one thing I have to tell this, because some of the teachers said, well, they never found him in the office. And I said, well, I'm sure he goes to the office. She said, oh, no. Said he's in that second grade or kindergarten. So he stays there all the time. So evidently, he does, or he did love children. And he enjoyed every minute. And I have one, and I have so many girls here that I've taught.
Good.
And they're all, will you girls raise your hand? I think they will tell you, I wasn't such a bad teacher. I love every one of them. But I started out in elementary here because I could not get business scores. So I taught there, I believe, 2 years before and I can't think of his name. But anyway, he retired. So they asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, well, I don't know, because I'm not Miss Recess. I didn't know we had a period off. But anyway, I took it, and I was glad. And I love those girls to this day. They're just my girls. I never had a girl. I had a bunch.
You borrowed them, right?
Yeah, I could just go on and on, but that's enough.
We're really glad that you're here, and we're glad that every one of you is here. And the reason I have the opportunity to introduce you guys is because several of you were either on the executive, the administrative team when I got started. So how many of you were there when I was first elected to the school board?
Oh my.
And that's kind of interesting because you will all remember Mrs. McKinney that cooked over at the high school. Well, a few years ago, 3 years ago in fact, my mother ended up in a nursing home, and Mrs. McKinney was her roommate. And she passed away that first weekend that she was there. And I came back to the next board meeting, and I thought, well, I'll tell everybody about the fact that Mrs. McKinney was there and she passed away. Nobody knew her. And I thought, we've got board members here, we've got teachers and faculty, and you folks are in the community, most of you all the time, and they don't know if they rub elbows with you. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to have you come as our guest and have an opportunity for everybody to meet you. All right, Mr. Jack Cockrell is not here this evening, so we'll go on with Leonard Evans. Leonard, would you stand up and tell just a little bit?
I need a bigger hand in that. I was on the school board with Lynn. Before Lynn got on the school board, she said, Leonard, we need to get on the school board because they're not doing anything for East Ward is falling apart, and when they spend money on it, don't look any better. I said, well, I'm not going to get on the school board now or never. She worked on me till one day they fooled me into coming into the office. When I got in the office, I said, why did y'all send for me? Y'all got a job for me to do? He said, yeah. The superintendent said, yeah, Jack Cockrell. Jack said, we got something for you to do. I said, well, I'm ready to go to work. How much you paying? He said, the job we got for you don't pay anything. So they decided that they were going to put me on the school board whether I wanted to be on there or not. I got on the board, and Lynn and what's the other name? Pam. They got one arm, and they led me through 13 years of school board. I couldn't do without them, and I thank you very kindly, Lynn, for your help.
tell you about his background, but he was a very good school board member because he had been a teacher, he had been a coach, he had been a bus driver, and what else?
Everything.
So he knew school districts from the inside out, so. The next name is Mr. Reuben Johnson, and Mrs. Johnson is with us, and would you like to stand up and say a few words?
The school is Reuben Johnson Elementary. Now, I can tell you so many things about Reuben. Reuben was born here in McKinney. He was raised in McKinney, went to school in McKinney. Then Reuben and I met when we went in college, at Texas College. And he finished, came home and started working. Then he worked out in the county as county supervisor. After that, he got a job in McKinney, and I was working in the county also. But I didn't come with him. He came and he stayed, and then there was an opportunity for me to finally come to McKinney. And he started teaching at the old Doty High School. I think he taught Jesse and a lot of these And point of integration, he went to McKinney High?
Boyd High School. Or
McKinney High School, yes, and after McKinney High, he went to so many other schools, I won't name all of them. But anyway, the last time he went to Burks Elementary, and this is where he retired, at Burks Elementary. But he was such a good man.
Next we have Scott Johnson, and,
I'm over here.
oh,
Lynn.
they're over here.
I am Scott Johnson. I'm the other Johnson, as the schools are named. Leonard and I were talking earlier. We started the same year in McKinney, different sides of town, didn't we, Leonard? But we had a lot of fun, known Leonard forever. I spent my entire career, teaching, coaching career in McKinney. The last 10 years as superintendent. I never got to be in this building, but that was later. We enjoy getting back to see our friends. It's nice to see those of you that are still here. I guess it was an honor for me to be part of the school district for that long, and I had lots of good times in McKinney. Think of it often. We live in Cook County now, up near Gainesville, but we get back to McKinney sometime, and it's my pleasure, though, to look around and see those that I worked with. Jesse, we had some good times. I guess one of the, as far as the coaching side of it, one of the best things that I like to think of is I got Ron Potter. I guess that was a high point for me, but I thank the board for having us back tonight. It's been great. Thanks, good idea, Lynn, and thank you very much.
And next, Herman Lawson Early Childhood School, which we have changed to Herman Lawson School. And Mrs. Lawson, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I think he was a very good teacher. He loved teaching, and he loved the students. And he taught here in McKinney for 37 years. And he had started, actually when I met him, he had started teaching out at a little town that consolidated later with Salina, Alla. And he was a teacher and a coach and a principal all in that school. And then he decided to come to McKinney and stay here the rest of his career. And he did several different things as a math teacher. He taught different types of geometry, and then he taught the advanced math and trigonometry and all that. And then he went to Finch as principal for a number of years. And then eventually, he did different things. And then he eventually came back, here in this building, and where when they went to the computers. And he helped set up the whole computer system and with the programmer. And he enjoyed doing that, and that's what he was doing when he retired. And
He retired when he was 57, but he had 40 years experience.
Well, thank you for coming. And next we have Mrs. The school is Albert and Iola Johnson, Iola Davis Malvern. I didn't do that very well, did I? Let's try it again. Albert A. and Iola Lee Davis Malvern Elementary School. And Mrs. Malvern, would you like to say a few words?
First, I would like to say this is a nice thing that you all, whoever did that, I think it's wonderful that the school board or whoever decided to name some of the people who had worked here in the community and name the school instead of naming somebody way up in New York and all of that. And I am very, very appreciative. I am an original McKinneyite. I was born in McKinney. My mother taught school here in McKinney, and she taught school at the same school eventually that I attended, which at that time was the Doty School. And I finished here in McKinney, and I went to Bishop in Marshall. Ironically, her husband, Reuben, and I were classmates. And we finished high school together. And then later, I did not start under Reuben, but I started under Mr. John W. Burnett. And also another thing that you don't know is when I was teaching at Doty, there's one of my students. A lot of the students that I see now from Doty, they can't hardly believe you taught Mr. Jesse. And then when Doty integrated in 1967, I was transferred to Westward. It was called Westward at that time. And I stayed there until I retired. But during that time, I also worked under her husband, Mr. Bennett. So I have several things that I am very appreciative for and enjoyed every minute of it. I was teaching 1 year before I met Mr. Malvern. He was a Prairie View graduate, and Mr. Burnett was a Prairie View graduate. And he was trying to get some more persons to apply for schools to teach at Doty. And my husband applied. That's where we met. We met that second year, because I taught first. Then when he came, that was my second year. And of course, after we met, that was history. We have one son, Maurice Malvern, and he also is a graduate of McKinney. He also went to Tarleton State, and he's a little musician. Some of you may have heard him from time to time, because he loves that music. Now, my husband was a jack of all trades when he was working at Doty. Lynn can attest to that. He taught band, he was a band teacher. He taught math, he taught science, he taught woodwork, he taught and he also drove the bus. But one thing that was kind of funny one time when he was driving the bus, they finally gave him a little raise. He came in one day and he said, "Honey, you're not going to believe this." And I said, "What is it?" He said, the school board gave me a little $5 raise. But do you know my check is less than it was before they gave me a $5 raise? He said, "Now I know a lot of people not going to believe this." He said, "But I'm going back and tell them, you take that $5. I don't want that $5. Many of you know that Mr. Malvin, when he left Doty, he went to the high school that he worked under Mr. Helton. And he stayed there for many, many years. Between the two of us, both of us worked over 30 years in the McKinney School District. And he has been gone a long, long time. And I have been retired over 30 years.
And next is Jesse McGowan.
Oh, well.
And the rest is history.
Hey, the rest is history. Well, I'm Jesse McGowan, and the first thing that I want to say, I want to thank God for a school being named for me, because I know it was all in His plans and in His hand that it happened. And I thank God that there are so many people here that I work with on a regular basis. I started at Doty, and it was ironic that they named the mascot for McGowan was a Maverick, because that's exactly what I was in the district, was a Maverick. I started at Doty, and then when we integrated, I went to where Caldwell is located now, with McKinney Junior High School. They moved me from there to McKinney High School for a period of time. When Slaughter was built, I went to Slaughter. And then from Slaughter, I went back to McKinney High School, where Fabian is located now. And then when they rebuilt McKinney High School, I moved there. And then before my career ended, I went to the Link Center, where I finished my career, and I stayed there for a period of time. I spent 37 years regular in the district, but I continued in the GED program because the superintendent, each one of the superintendents suggested stay one more year, and those 1 more years ended up being 10 years. So in all, I was with the district for 47 years. I met my lovely wife at Texas College, where I graduated in Tyler, Texas. And I tell people this, and they don't believe this, but I know that God is in people's lives. Because I was walking down the street one day with my roommate, and I saw my wife standing on the side there, and I pointed to her, and I told my classmate, I said, I'm going to marry her. And he said, you don't even know her. How you going to marry her? And we dated on and off and everything, but in 1963, she became my wife, and this coming June, we're going to celebrate 49 years of marriage.
Well, I was born and raised in McKinney, I guess you could say. And I started my teaching career at the old J.H. Hill Elementary School, 6th grade. When I went to my first grade. In fact, you talk about overcrowding. When I started first grade at North Ward, or J.L. Greer, they said, we're too crowded here, you've got to go to Central Ward, or J.H. Hill School. So I spent my first grade there, and ended up, when I came to McKinney, the only opening that was there I applied, and the superintendent, Neil Sperry, said, well, I have you set up for 6th grade at J.H. Hill Elementary School. Well, I'm a business major in North Texas, and back then you got an all-level certificate, so I ended up teaching the 6th grade. And probably they thought I'd never stay in the profession, but I moved to the high school in the fall of that year and taught in the business department, and ended up doing everything from driving the bus to working in the cafeterias and just doing a little bit of everything. Finally ended up as an assistant principal after teaching distributive education and business education, working with students of all levels. Then I ended up as business manager or assistant superintendent for finance. I retired in that position after several years, and then worked again in the district, helping with the growth, placing kids and trying to keep parents settled down. When you move their kids from one school to another. So I was able to, I've enjoyed my 37 and a half years plus another 6. I enjoyed my time in McKinney ISD.
And while each of you have made a wonderful contribution contribution to this school district, Arthur is the historian. And before computers, we had things, as I understand it, stored under stages and all around the district, and whenever we had to dig something up, it was get a hold of Arthur McNeil, he knows where it is, or he knows the district. And so that's why he couldn't be let go for quite a long time. All right, Gary and Bobby Jack Minshew Elementary.
I'm Bob Jack Minshew, and like Arthur McNeil, I graduated from Old Boyd High School, and then when I went to North Texas, I met him, and we got married, and we came back to McKinney and started teaching school in '59. And I walked into the classroom, and I wasn't sure what I was going to teach because I was desperate for a job. I'll teach anything. So I ended up teaching journalism and Spanish the first few years of my career. And then I started teaching English, and I taught all levels of English. And finally, when I got to the 12th grade, they decided to open a new McKinney High School, and so I decided it's time for me to retire. So I started with McKinney High School open, and when it moved to a new location, I left. But I enjoyed it, and I got quite a few students around here, I can see right now too.
Oh, good.
And enjoyed all of them. It was a very nice situation, and very fulfilling.
And Gary?
Well, I must say also it's a great pleasure to see all of you, to see all of you again. You know, we walk around McKinney, we see somebody at the grocery store we know, we run over there right quick and hug them. I don't see anybody I know anymore. It's wonderful. It's so good to have a select group together like this, you know. Now, McGowan, I watched him over there. She said we started teaching in '59. That was 1959, not 1859. But I was fat, dumb, and happy, working for Chance Balt in 1958. Had a good job. We had a pretty good life in Grand Prairie. And guess what? Another airplane company got a contract, and half of our force was laid off. And we lost about 12,000 people there. It's real soon. As the old Merle Haggard song says, you got laid off down to Christmas time, I got laid off at Christmas time. And McKinney High School had just opened up in this new location. And my father-in-law found out there was an opening for a shop teacher, and that's what I was, a shop teacher. So I got on, luckily got on, only had 42 kids per class, you know. But I stayed with it, and I began to really, really like it. And Bobby came and started with me also. By the way, let me mention, she's not a newcomer to McKinney. Her people came here in 1842. Wow. Anyway, I stayed with that job for quite a few years. Moved on to junior high school. Worked for Gene Health a couple of years. Then I became principal and had these two guys right here moving me along, helping me every day, each and every day. They'd get me in the corner and say, Fess, and they call me Fess, Professor. You know, we call it that. Fess, now you need to do this, you need to do that. I want you to look down and go, okay, yes. Thank you for your help, you know. And I never did tell them how much I appreciate what they did for me. But I stayed there, and it became Caldwell Middle School, and I stayed there also. And then I went to special education as director of special education for 2 years. And then Scott let me work for him for more than that. So I retired as assistant superintendent. And together we had 60 years in McKinney ISD. And it was a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to see you guys and gals again. And it's a pleasure to see people in McKinney that I know that I used to teach, and I used to be principal of, perhaps, you know. It's a real pleasure. If you've never taught in any circumstance, try it sometime. It's great.
And last but not least, we have Ron Poe, and he doesn't have an elementary school or a high school or a middle school named after him, but he has a little stadium out here. So if you would introduce Betty, who was also a teacher.
This is my wife, Betty, and this summer we celebrated 50 years together. Betty was a teacher and finished here as a central office administrator. She has been a principal also. You know, some people have asked me over the years, Now, understand, I'm the kid of this group. And I just turned 70 and I'm the kid. But some people have asked me, and I say this, Brandon, well, how about the success you had, how did you do that? Well, I started looking around this room, and I remember your husband, and what the wisdom he gave me. And I remember your husband and the wisdom he gave me, and who could work for a better person than Scott Johnson? And Gary Minshew, when I needed something, I can remember getting your horse trailer and hauling it 200 miles one day. I need some help. I said, well, Minshew will help me, so I had people to help me. And look over here, and I know how to get along with people and work in the community. And I just go ask Leonard. Leonard knows how to do that. He can tell me. And when I needed some humility, because sometimes, when you're coaching, you get that pride that you want to and if I wasn't short of money, he still got the first dollar. I couldn't do anything but be successful. And McKinney, I love McKinney. McKinney is great to me. I came here in 1970 and left in 2001, retired in 2001. I was here 31 years. And funny story, when I came over here, I was in Greenville, Texas. Scott had called me actually in 1969 and offered me a job. And I went down to resign at Greenville ISD, and the superintendent was Wesley Martin. If you remember old Wesley Martin now, he was a character. Betty was his secretary while she was getting a degree. He wouldn't let me leave, not because he wanted to keep me, because he didn't want Betty to leave, so he made me a principal. He said, if you'll let stay, I'll get you administration. So he made me assistant principal half the year, and as bad luck would have it, the principal had a heart attack, and I wound up being the principal for half a year. Scott called me in May of the next year and said, well, you had enough of that? You ready to come to work? I said, Scott, if you'll put that phone down real slow, I'll be there before you hang up. I never asked him the salary, what I was going to do. I said, I'm coming to work for you. So, but for 31 years, I was in the district and loved the district and all the good people. And I see a lot of people from time to time, the kids that play for me. And when you get a phone call, I had one this last summer, and it said, Coach, and I hadn't heard of this guy, and he said, you need to talk to Johnny, he just lost his wife. I got to tell him, you know how old that guy was? He's 63 years old, and he's calling me, I'm the old coach who wouldn't talk to you, man, you need to go talk to your boy, his wife just passed away. Those are the things that you remember. Awards are not how many games you won, or it's the relationship that you had not only with the kids, but the other people who worked in the district. It was fantastic. I just want to say to Lynn and to the people, Lynn was here the longest, I guess, in the board, how much I appreciate everything they did for me and my family. I raised 4 kids in this town, and 2 of them still live here. But we love McKinney, and everyone treated me great. And Scott Johnson, thank you very much.